Oh, what a joy it is to have you grace my channel once again, my friend. We are entering the midpoint of this repainting series, and today we're going back to the bosses of the main board game set, and it is the mini boss of the Boreal Valley, the Outrider Knight, which is what we'll be focusing on today.
And engage in jolly cooperation.
The giveaway is still currently running, so stick around to find out how to enter later on. So here is the supplied model. They've captured the armor and the pose perfectly. It's one of my favorite looking bosses from this set for sure. I think with the airbrush we can create some cool looking frosty glow effects maybe on the helmet and the sword. This is the original one I did last year. It's lacking really any finer detail to it. The main coat of armor is just lead belcher, and I just painted a light coat of blue to the sword as well to try and make something stand out. But realistically, I think we can do a lot better. So let's just get this bad boy primed. I'm really sad because I forgot to film a cool transition for priming this guy. And I didn't realize that until I started editing the video, and by then it was too late because he was already painted. Oh well. But like all the others we've done in this series so far, I'm going to start off with some zenithal highlighting, just from a high up angle, spraying down to generate the light source, and creating a sort of bounce effect to the sword to help with the metal reflection look. We're going to go with the NMM, non-metallic metal approach for this model, so utilizing some different greys and some black and white to create that specific look. So let's get the paints loaded up onto the wet palette. It's going to be some Corax White and Administratum Grey, followed by some Celestra Grey, and then some Ashen Grey, and finally some Abaddon Black. Now, if you want to know more about non-metallic metal methods, I talk a lot more about it in the video for the Dancer of the Boreal Valley that I did last month, so go check that out. I'll just be covering the basics of what I'm doing in this one. There is also plenty of resources out there, and as soon as I learned what non-metallic metal was, I spent a lot of time reading about it. You'll find some awesome stuff from really talented dudes on YouTube talking about it. But I'm starting off with a mix of Ashen Grey and some black to make the dark point of the armor, and I'm painting it in a strip down the leg because the closest shape to a leg is a cylinder, and light reflects on a cylinder in kind of stroked lines. And when it comes to parts like ankles and the knees, they are kind of closer to spheres, so light reflects differently and reflects as kind of a spotlight on them and fades out to darker tones. So I will be applying darker tones the further away from the center of the shape, if that makes sense. And with these sort of like shape light theories in mind, I'll just be following this process across the whole body. So with the darker shades done, I'm then blending up through some lighter tones of grey and painting strokes of it next to the dark tone we've just done. A sort of nice tip I learned to help blend between colours is, when blending between the two, take the colour you've just applied and make it a glaze consistency, and use that on the join line of the two shades to help blend it a bit more. So with that in mind, I'm just slowly moving up through the lighter tones and building up this reflection bit by bit using these different lines, trying to mimic how light reflects on metal. With that done, I'm taking some time with some white and edge highlighting all these little ridges and edges of the armor. This is a very linear and sharp looking armor, so there's a good number of edges to apply this to. Also makes it look a bit sort of sharper and brighter, as if it was like kind of frosty, which is kind of the intention of this character. Then with some Iron Warriors, I'm painting half of the hilt of the sword with it to the bottom half of it, as I will now be using some Iron Breaker to paint the other half of it. Now it's on to the airbrushing portion of the paint job. I'm first just loading in some Talisar blue contrast paint to it and thinning it out nicely, and I'm going to be applying these to the white parts of the sword to begin with. You can see I've left this sort of staggered effect onto the sword between the light and the dark, and I'm going to be making sure to leave the dark parts dark, and also on these white parts I'm leaving a little pocket of white which will sort of blend down to the blue, which then blends down to the dark. And then with that, it's then just a case of applying some of this same contrast paint to the side of the body where it would appear that the sword would be generating this blue reflection to, and then spraying some of this blue onto the center of the helmet as if there was this sort of frosty light looking like it was emanating from within the helmet itself. Now to go back over this blue and to try bring out some of the power of the light sources a bit, I'm just going to go back to the white ink and just targeting those areas within the blue and spraying in little pockets of white to try and make it look like that's where the glow is directly coming from. and that's going to be the little areas of blue on the sword, and then a concentrated area of it to the very center of the helmet, which fades out into the blue we'd already applied. I also decided I liked the idea more that the base of the blade was where a lot of the light was coming from and then fading up the sword, so I went back over that area with some white and blended up some more blue onto it. Once I'm happy with that, I'm then loading up some carbon black ink to create some stark contrast shadow to hopefully enhance the lighter parts that we've just made. So I'm basically targeting areas of this model where the light wouldn't be hitting, and also the sort of edges of the helmet where the glow would not be affecting and the sort of light would slowly start to fade away. The undersides of the armor, as well as the tip of the sword, which is now the furthest point from the light source at the base of the blade. And now with that done, that's the airbrushing part complete, and the last little bit left to do is go back over this with some edge highlighting to bring out those little last details. So this little sort of pattern on the sword, especially more around the base within that white center, and also the little grate in the center of his helmet needs some highlighting too, and just any parts around the armor that I previously missed, it's time to just go back through and apply it to any layers that I didn't pick up. And that should just about do it for this one, and here is how the frosty boy is looking. I did try some liquid frost on this one, but for some reason it wasn't drying and the effect wasn't taking shape and it wasn't working. So if you know any reason and you use liquid frost as to why this would be the case, please let me know in the comments. I'd be very interested to find out why that was happening. But here is the comparison between the two. I think the difference in this one is quite noticeable. It is significantly brighter than the old one. The added glows and the blue tones to the new one really give it that cold yet vibrant aesthetic as opposed to the sort of lifeless dark metallic one that I'd already done. I'm pretty happy with this one, and hopefully it gives you some ideas on how to paint your own one if you have bought the board game. And speaking of the board game, that brings me nicely on to the giveaway section of this video. So as explained in the previous videos, on Sundays I'll be releasing a new video as part of this repainting series. By the end of the series we will have a fully painted collection of the main board game set. This is the prize, this exact and complete Dark Souls board game painted by me. To enter, all you have to do is make sure you're subscribed to the channel and leave a comment below answering this week's question. I will be picking a winner from the comments across all videos in this repainting series, so the more videos you comment on, the more chance you have to win. Last week I asked you to tell me what game got you into the Fromsoftware franchise, and this week I would like you to tell me in the comments the worst area in any of the games. From Blighttown to Lake of Rot, or even the famously hated Shrine of Amana. As ever gang, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a like, hit the subscribe button, and if you're feeling fancy, even hit that little bell icon so you get updated the moment a new video drops. I would like to once again thank you for spending your time with me as I go through this repainting series, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out gang, and don't you dare go hollow.